you all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Plain roll call, please.
McCampbell.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Wilson. Davidson.
Here.
Fleming.
Here.
All right, well done. Mayor's Award will be next week. So tonight, first on the agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed under item 1, consent agenda, having been discussed, are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and it will be considered separately. On the consent we have finances and miscellaneous, minutes of previous meetings, payroll and city claims, beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports, and bonds. Resolutions. The first resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties. The second is a resolution approving final acceptance, final payment, and release of retention monies for the 2016 BN sanitary sewer repair project. The third is a resolution approving final acceptance, final payment, and release of retention monies for the 2015 sanitary sewer rehab project. The fourth is a resolution award contract for facility planning of the Market Street Sub-Basin Sewer Separation Project. The fifth is a resolution authorizing agreement with Impact 7G for project services associated with the former Dresser Rand site cleanup project. The sixth is a resolution supporting and approving application to the Wellmark Foundation's Community Kickstarter Grant Program for improvements to D. Edwin and Gladys White Park. The seventh is a resolution approving an agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation for maintenance and repair of primary roads and municipalities. The eighth is a resolution amending fees for Dankwart Park Pool. The ninth is a resolution approving the purchase of easements between 163 Crestview, pin number 16-09-358-004, and from an unaddressed lot on South 10th Street, pin number 16-08-455-029, for the construction of storm sewer associated with the 2016 Cascade Watershed Sewer Separation Project, Phase 2. The 10th is a resolution extending the maturity date of the city's sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement anticipation project note. And we also have some public hearings set for September 19th, 2016. The first is consideration of a sale of property locally known as 1118 Maple Street, Burlington, Iowa, with conditions. The second is consideration of sale property locally known as 1505 Etna Street, Burlington, Iowa, with conditions. And the third is consideration of an ordinance rezoning the property located on the west side of South Main Street between Maple Street and Spruce Street from M1 Light Industrial to C1 Limited Commercial Zoning District. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda? I see none. Council?
Not me.
Fine.
Need a motion then.
Your Honor, I move to approve all items listed under item 1 consent agenda.
Second.
Kathleen?
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Well done. Okay, next we have a hearing. This is time set for hearing for consideration of sale of property locally known as 118 North Main Street, City of Burlington, Iowa, Des Moines County, with conditions. Mr. Chisholm.
This is the sale of the city parking lot at 118 North Main Street, located at the southeast corner of Main and Valley Street, for consideration of transfer or purchase of property at 101 North Main Street, which is currently owned by CMM Company LC. So this is essentially a sale of one lot on Main Street for the purchase of another lot on Main Street. The property at 101 North Main Street shall be demolished, completely removing the structures and floors from the property prior to transfer of ownership. The transfer of ownership of the property at 101 North Main Street shall be completed by September 1st of 2017. An escrow in the amount of $10,000 shall be deposited with the city of Burlington upon approval of this resolution and prior to transfer of the deed for 118 North Main Street, to be held as, I guess, a condition for guarantee of removal of that property. Properties shall be transferred by quitclaim deed. Did talk to the owner of the property and did not anticipate demolishing or removing those structures till later in the winter, so anticipated them having enough time to move out and find another location. So again, the properties are very similar in size. 101 North Main, the property that the city would be acquiring, is slightly larger, just by 100 or so square feet. Their assessed values are essentially the same for land value, and the city would be getting a property adjacent to our existing parking lot that would allow expansion of that parking lot to provide additional spaces that could be used by the police department once they move it into the US Bank property on the north side of Valley Street. And this would allow Frank Millard Company to expand their building that they're planning just south of the lot at 118 North Main Street into that lot as well, having the building line up on Valley Street and Main Street, that they do plan to construct this fall or winter as well. So
Very well. Are there any questions from the audience or concerns? I see none. Council?
Not me.
Your Honor, I move to close public hearing.
Second.
Move to second. Close. Kathleen?
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Your Honor, I move to approve the sale of the property locally known as 118 North Main Street, City of Burlington, Des Moines County, Iowa, with conditions.
Second.
Moved in second. Let's take it to vote.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Well done. Number two, this is consideration of this time set for hearing for consideration of a permanent encroachment agreement with Tracy Thompson for encroachment into city right-of-way at 129 Polk Street, Burlington, Iowa. Publication's been made. Mr. Tislin?
this is a request by Mr. Thompson at 129 Polk Street to place a gate across the existing dead-end alley there that's located just east of Main Street between Polk and Clay Street. He owns the properties north and south of the alley, and the alley dead ends at his property. He had requested to place a fence there, kind of delineating the property to prevent unwanted access into his property. Has had issues in the past there. Upon review by the city, a couple comments on it. One is that the gate shall not be locked. It shall only be shut or latched, so that if Public Works needs to access a sewer in the area or Reliant, that they can gain access to the facilities at all time. Any garbage shall be set out so that the sanitation drivers do not have to open the gate to access any garbage, that it should be located on the east side of the gate if it's closed, or if it's open just at that location. The applicant shall complete any necessary repairs. If it is damaged, the city is not responsible for any damage to the encroaching structure, and they would have to get any applicable permits for the location of the gate. Again, some images just showing this is a dead-end alley that goes over a hillside over to Main Street, drops off substantially there. There is no continuation of the alley, but there are some utilities in the alley right away that do need to be maintained access to. So,
Anyone from the audience with any questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none. Council?
Not me.
Good.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Motion to close. Second.
Kathleen?
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye. Your Honor, I have a resolution approving permanent encroachment agreement with Tracy Thompson for encroachment into city right-of-way at 129 Polk Street, Burlington, Iowa.
Second.
Move to second. Let's take it to vote. Kathleen?
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Well done. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you very
Okay, moving right along. This is time set for hearing for consideration of an ordinance rezoning the property located at 2910 Madison Avenue from R1 Single Family Residential to C1 Limited Commercial Zoning District. Application has been made. Mr. Tisland.
Again, this is a request to rezone the former Klein Center located at the corner of Madison and Kestner from R1 Single Family Residential to C1 Limited Commercial Zoning District. This property is directly adjacent to an R4 multifamily residential district to the west of the property. There is a small C1 to the south that contains a drive-through ATM. There's no actual business there. It's just a single ATM. And then county property as well to the south, park property, and R1 to the north and to the east. This went to the Planning Commission on July 19th. Regarding the rezoning, the Planning Commission voted 1-3 to recommend approval of the requested rezoning to the City Council, so they did not recommend approval. Their recommendation was based on the potential negative impact of a commercial business could have on the existing residential neighborhood, based on the future land use map for the area being low-density residential and lack of support for the request at the hearing. The Planning Commission did discuss the possibility of considering alternative residential zoning designations for the property, potentially R4, or C1 designations with conditions limiting the use of the property, or also might be the requirement or opportunity for a PUD at the property. There's not been a firm development plan for the property at this time. I guess based on the request, the initial request is to make it into apartments and changed it to C1 to allow some commercial use on the first floor as well. But I guess from our understanding going through the process, it's based on potential development, not an actual development going forward. And the concern staff had was not knowing all the different uses that might go in there or could go in there. C1 wouldn't cover all the potential uses and R4 wouldn't cover them. A PUD might be the most opportune or best zoning for the site based on its past use and the limited redevelopment opportunities for an R1, so unless there's an actual development proposal brought forward with specific uses, then a PUD couldn't be brought forward as well. So we realize it is a property that will need to be rezoned, just didn't feel that what has been presented at this time was a firm development proposal. It's just some kind of speculation on what could go in there, and it's limited. The C1 limits it, and the R1 and R4 limited as well. So we just wanted to make sure we're going through the process appropriately and not going through it multiple times. So that's what the recommendation was through the Planning Commission and from staff.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Yes, sir. Can I have you come to the come up front and give us your name and address, please?
24, 2900 Madison Avenue.
Name, please.
Cody Ford.
Move that microphone up to your, wait, please. Yeah, thank you, Cody.
Well, what we would like to do with it is make a hotel, the top 2 floors, and have the bottom floor like a gym, and then commercial kitchen it already has in there, and then a laundromat is what we're proposing.
Good.
Okay.
You guys have any other questions?
We were under the understanding that changing the zoning wasn't going to be an issue when we talked to the staff about before we purchased the property.
Go ahead.
My position is, Cody, is I have no problem with changing the zoning as long as we know what the plan is, and like Eric said, maybe a PUD is a better way to go than to change it just to C1, because under what he has planned, would that work in C1?
C1 does not allow a hotel. It would have to be C2 general
Yeah,
commercial.
So
Okay.
this is not the right zoning classification
Well,
for
it
what?
was actually, from what Charlie said, it was extended stay, like would fall into that classification. That's why we chose that classification. Yes.
I'd have to look at what you're proposing. A hotel is a general commercial use. R4 would allow multifamily apartment type use,
Yeah, but
typically 60 days or longer. So just depends on what's actually going in there.
Yeah, hotel's what we talked about with Charlie, and that's the zoning that he said that we needed to,
Yeah, the application stated make it into apartments and stated from R1 to R4, so that,
it was R4
Can't-
first, and then we changed it to.
C1.
C1 is
Yep.
what we needed to open up. He said to open up the commercial kitchen and to have a commercial on the bottom floor.
Well, we're not going to be able to address that for you tonight.
Okay.
We're just here to address if it's going to get rezoned or not. And it sounds like even if we rezoned it to C1, that it's still not going to be specifically to meet your needs, that you'd still have to go through a PUD. Is that correct? PUD, is that correct?
a C1 wouldn't allow a hotel. I'm not sure, I guess, what the extended stay that, or
Yeah, I'm not- that's just
short-term stay, anything shorter than 60 days
Okay.
would have, require the, I think I'm kind of speaking here, not having talked to Charlie or not having talked to you on any of this either, but short-term lodging less than 60 days would be a hotel, motel, or bed and breakfast, and that would require a C2 to go through that process.
Okay.
And a C1 only allows commercial use up to 10,000 square feet, so once you got over that, that would also be limiting, and the building's substantially bigger than that on the first floor, so.
Okay.
So I guess the bottom line is this, Cody, for me, I'd like to have you go ahead with your plan,
Okay.
but get together with them and come up with a PUD or something that's gonna
Okay.
work. It sounds like this is not gonna fit what you want.
Okay.
I don't want you to go away here discouraged that you can't do something, because I really want you to.
Okay.
It's just I want you to be able to do it the right way.
Okay.
I think that goes for everybody. We want to see that get developed. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say just about the same thing. I support what you're wanting to do. It's just this action isn't gonna get it done for you.
Okay.
And if we can help in any way, come back and see us. We'd love
Okay.
to see you be successful out there
Okay.
and make something out of that property, so.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Cody.
Any other comments from the audience? Anybody else? Okay. Council, you satisfied?
I've said what I need to say.
Motion to close.
Second.
Kathleen?
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye. Motion for preliminary adoption of the first reading, an ordinance rezoning the property located at 2910 Madison Avenue from R1 Single Family Residential to C1 Limited Commercial Zoning District.
Second.
Kathleen?
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Davidson,
No.
Oh, what a dummy.
Fleming,
I just did the same thing too. I wasn't even thinking about it.
How are we gonna do this?
2 to 2
But
means
it
it fails. 2 to 2 means it fails.
Okay, all right, there you
All
go.
right.
Right, Kathleen?
yes.
Don't you just love it? All right.
Pay attention next time.
There you
I'll
go.
try to.
That's right. They pay attention to detail. Okay.
Thanks, Jim, for being on top of it. Yeah, Bob. Your Honor, I have a motion for preliminary adoption, the second reading of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 155 International Building Code, the City of Burlington Municipal Code.
Second.
Mr. Fislin?
No changes from the previous reading. Again, the primary reason behind modifying our codes, and we'll be modifying more as we go through, is going to the updated edition of the International Building Code. We're currently under the 2012 edition, and this goes to the 2015 edition of the International Building Code. It also allows for additional exception that was in the 2009 code, but it was not listed in the 2012 or 2015 code, which specifically applies to floors 2 and 3 for fully sprinkled buildings where windows are not required in bedrooms. They're not under those codes, and under the current code, the 2015 code, in floors 4 and above, bedrooms and fully sprinkled buildings do not require to have a window access, but on floors 2 and 3 they do. And this provides for an exception for that type of building that has a fully approved automatic sprinkler system, or where sleeping rooms are provided with a door to a fire resistance rated corridor having access to 2 remote exits in opposite directions. So that's the primary change within this section of the code.
Anybody have any questions or concerns over the code change? Anyone from the audience? See none? Council?
Oh, good to update.
Your Honor, I have a motion to amend. I'd like to amend the motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 155 International Building Code of the City of Burlington Municipal Code to read as follows. For waiver of preliminary consideration, adoption of the second reading, for final adoption of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 155 International Building Code of the City of Burlington Municipal Code.
Second.
Thank you. Let's take a vote on the, on to amend.
McCampbell.
Yes. Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
And let's vote as amended.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Good deal. Nice have it.
Your Honor, I have a motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 156 of the International Existing Building Code for the City of Burlington, Iowa.
Second.
Mr. Tisland.
Again, this is going from the 2012 edition to the 2015 edition of the International Existing Building Code. The one primary change within this section is just a clarification under Section 6 of Section 156.03. There's an amendment that allows for or describes where sprinklers are required or not required in small buildings of 3 stories in height maximum and no more than 4 dwelling units. This is just a clarification that is currently in our International Building Code section, just to bring it into the International Existing Building Code as well. So if someone's looking at one code, not the other, that they're still getting that same understanding and exception. So it's not a new change, it's just a clarification to bring it into this section of the code.
Any questions or concerns from the audience? I see none. Council?
Council also have an amendment for this action. To amend a motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 156 International Existing Building Code for the City of Burlington Municipal Code to read as follows. For waiver of preliminary consideration and adoption of the second reading, and for final adoption of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 156 International Existing Building Code in the City of Burlington Municipal Code.
Second.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Okay, now let's vote on as amended.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Okay, nice have
Your
it.
Honor, I have a resolution authorizing reserved parking along Valley Street to the east of Main Street.
Second.
This is tied to the sale of property at 118 North Main Street. As part of the city's lease agreement with US Bank, while they're still in the building downtown, the city is required to provide 18 parking spaces for use by the bank. With this lot going away, they would not have access to that, and this agreement allows for 5 of those parking spaces to be used in the parking lot to the south of Valley in the city's existing lot, which could be increased potentially if additional became available. But then the remaining 2 be on street on the south side of Valley Street, just east of Main Street, in front of the property where they're parking now. So this provides for reserved parking for use by US Bank from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday through Friday, just during the time until they relocate out of this building downtown. Currently, that site has parallel parking. I believe there's 3 or 4 spots there. It would be changed to angle parking, which would add 11 additional spots, or 11 total new spots, so an addition of 7 or 8 spots to that site. And based on the 18 required in the 5 in the other lot, approximately 11 to 13 would be required to be reserved here. And that would still allow 8 to 10 spots for public parking to the east of that on Valley Street.
Sounds good. Anybody from the audience have any questions or concerns? Whew, I thought Crowner was gonna get up for a minute. All right. The council?
Your Honor, I still have some concerns that a couple of the business owners in that area had expressed some displeasure with the fact that we changed the parking from, it was either 2 hour to 4 hour or 3 hour to 4 hour on-street parking time limit in that area, and it's caused them some heartache as far as a parking space for their customers. Taking those 3 or 4 spots off the street that and filling them in with all the reserve spots is not going to make life easier for them. I know what we've got to do, and I understand it's going to be a short-term change, but I would say be prepared if this passes that we're going to hear from a couple of business owners in that area.
In the long run, though, it's gonna be a benefit to them.
Pardon me?
In the long run, it'll be a benefit because we're adding parking spaces.
No, and that's what made it palatable for me. I'm
Yeah.
not sure that it will be for them, but it's, again, it's short term.
Would you like to look at, maybe not as part of this motion, but to look at the other 10 slots, consider making those, move those back to 2 hours as some way to compromise for what he's looking at doing? Or at least have a discussion on that. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Do you think that would satisfy?
We could bring that back as something to look at a future council meeting.
Do you think that would?
Yeah.
Do you think that would squelch the?
I don't know whether it will or not, but it's something to look at.
Step in the right direction.
We'll know in a day or two.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay. Take it to vote.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Done.
Your Honor, a resolution to install stop signs at Angular Street at the intersection of 9th Street, Madison Avenue, and Angular Street.
Mr. McGregor.
I need a second.
Oh, second. Thank you. Thank you.
Council, before you is a resolution to make 9th and Angular a 4-way stop. We were presented with a complaint of visibility issues from the alleyway at between 9th and 10th off of Angular. After running analysis of sight distance and then going through the MUTC, which goes through traffic counts, sight distances, and accidents in the previous years, staff believed that it was a better solution to make this a 4-way stop rather than reducing parking. And if you have the sight distance up there, that might be good to show too. And so the lower picture shows where the complaint resignated was from the alleyway rather than from 9th. And we're making that a stop sign on Angular brings that sight distance in, making the car more visible.
I guess my question, Nick, is how will we make that stop sign visible?
In the installation, we'll put flags on the side of it as well as paint a stop bar, similar to the way Division Street is painted. So white stop bar across the 2 lanes.
Okay.
It's not 2 lanes there, but it is a
Right.
wider 1 lane.
Yes.
So we'll paint stop bars across that to
Okay.
indicate that there is a stop sign there.
Great.
We looked into the flashing ones similar to what West Burlington has. They cost $1,300 per sign. So that will likely not happen
Right.
if passed.
The stop bar will help immensely. Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Anybody from the audience that has any questions or concerns? Yes, sir? Come to the front, please. Give us your name and address, please.
Victor Moore, 535 South 9th, Apartment 6. I live at 535 South 9th for about 9 years, almost 9 years. And it's been previous accidents, it's been a number of accidents there, and just one, just about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And coming out of that alleyway there, and you got vehicles parked along that side street there, and you can't see over across by the tattoo shop there when you got vehicles parked there, and you got a neighbor that's got a white utility truck parked there.
Right.
And it's blocking the obstruction of view of the stop sign over there. You get ready to pull out there in that alley, you got a car coming towards this way, and you about ready to get your front end tore off, and about ready to total your car. And I hate to see that happen to anybody that lives in that alleyway. They're coming out of that alley, and it's a dangerous situation there. There's been many accidents there, and I would like to see something did about it. You know, the stop signs, I'll go with that to slow the traffic down. But I would like to see no parking signs right there also. You know, you got 2 no parking signs right there already, and the vehicle is parked a couple of feet up from them 2 signs. If you put a couple of more signs there, it'll help, that'll make it more better there too. You know, no more parking signs there too. You know, as though we have visibility there to see across that road there. And you pull, like, you got 2 vehicles parked there, you can't see. You have to stop a short distance on that alley just to see over there at that stop sign. By the time you pull up again, pull out there in the intersection, you got vehicles coming. And I hate to see an accident right there at the alleyway right there. Somebody getting their vehicle tore up, and it be their fault, and not for the oncoming traffic.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
You know, that's a dangerous situation. And that's money out of their pocket they had to pay for,
Amen to that.
deductible,
Yeah.
$500 deductible, that hurts the person's pocket, on the insurance, and then they go with their insurance rates raising up,
You're making a difference, my friend. Even though you're wearing a Lion shirt, I can't look at it for very long. I mean, that's gonna sit down. But
And see, I would like to see those signs there though, too, also, So, see them no parking signs, you got 2 there, go ahead and put some more there, it'll make it visible to see up Angler towards Central and make it look visible more down towards Main, so.
That might be worth looking into.
It's hazardous right there, it's been, even in the wintertime,
Thank you, Vic.
Thank you.
Well said.
is there anybody else from the audience with any concerns?
When this request first came in, you had brought the request in, and Nick and Chris, you went and looked at this site and talked as you
Both myself and the operations manager took a look at this situation, and both came to the conclusion that a stop sign would bring cars to a stopping point for visibility's sake. I think no parking would probably be a viable option as well as far as visibility. It probably would not increase the safety factor as far as traveling speed down Angular.
That's the big issue, isn't it?
So this was brought forward thinking about the requests that you were making initially, and this was what the Public Works brought forward for you to consider for taking care of the issue in this corridor.
As far as parking too closely
If
to.
you wanted wanted to look at additional things like the
Parking sign.
increasing the no parking areas, that can be done. It would be bringing forward another action, and if that's what you want to do. That wasn't the route that Public Works was wanting to go, was recommending as the best alternative on this, but.
Well, I mean, if you guys looked at all, you don't see any Nick, what do you see on that? Do you see any reason to add on to that, or do you feel confident that the stop sign?
I think the stop signs will negate a lot of the, potential danger there. I do think that taking some of that parking away would probably also do that. Ultimately, I think the stop signs will create more safety than reducing the parking. But combined,
doing both,
it could be done.
How
But
many
I'm sorry to
parking spots
interrupt.
is that gonna affect?
Say what?
Do you know how many parking spots that would affect?
Probably about 3, but you would be reducing the one gentleman who has no parking, who is one that is parking on the east side of 9th Street on Angular, he would have no parking off-site.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Do you guys have any other questions?
No, not at this stage.
Thank you.
As far as parking too close, there is a limitation on how close you can park to drives. It's a matter of, you know, seeing that and then being able to enforce them to back off of where they're parking.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
If we pass this, Nick, would you please stay in close contact with this gentleman?
We will.
And see what difference it makes, whether it makes a difference or not for his concerns at the alley, if the traffic slows down enough that he feels safe, and if not, then bring back another action to take care of it, I would guess.
Yeah, we'll stay in contact. We will probably likely monitor the situation ourselves.
All right.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Let's take it. Did anybody have anything else that we didn't talk? Okay.
Just from personal experience, I can tell you, I don't know if must have been last week I drove by there just specifically, and there was somebody coming out of that alley at the time I was driving by. And they did have to get out there quite a ways to see around that pickup. But I think slowing the traffic down, I think we should give it a see how it goes and then evaluate later.
It's a good step at least.
Yeah.
I think so too. We're going to, this is all we've got on. We can't add anything to it, so this is as far as we can go tonight. But we're going to go ahead and add we're going to take it to vote. Kathleen?
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Hi.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Okay, so the ayes have it, so we'll be adding the stop sign. Mr. McGregor is gonna keep an eye on that for the next week or two and see how that works out, to see if we need to make any other alterations or adjustments. If we do, we'll have to have another action down here, but that'll take care of the stop sign. That's in effect. We've got one more resolution tonight.
Your Honor, I have a set date for public hearing for consideration of the 2016 amendment to the urban renewal plan for Burlington urban renewal area, October 3rd, 2016.
Need a second.
Second.
I was gonna say, if it doesn't get seconded, it doesn't get.
Grove.
Yeah.
This has been brought forward for consideration. We had a few different proposals in the spring. Richard Silva made one, Miller Valentine made one, and I apologize, I can't remember the. Stephanie made the art school presentation. The council had originally looked to go into a development agreement with Miller Valentine. They ended up with postponing their desire to work on a project. They've never officially said that they're completely off the table, but they said that until we're ready, or we see that it makes a financial viable sense to make a project work, we aren't going to ask the city to move forward with approving an agreement. Given that, Richard Silva had come back with another developer to look at the idea of submitting low-income housing tax credit program application for a combination of senior housing and more market levels senior housing that was open to whoever, or senior housing market level low income housing for the general public. That was different from what Miller Valentine made a presentation with. Miller Valentine talked about two separate phases, the first phase being senior housing, and the second phase, if they were to go into it, to be more potentially a general low-income housing project. The request from Richard Silva would be to develop, was it 55 in that neighborhood?
Between 50 and 60, I think.
And they were looking at about almost $10 million project, just shy of 10 million. Would have required a $700,000 match from the city, which we could do through a TIF rebate. that would help them to score at a maximum score on that LIHTC program. And what you see before you with this public hearing is to amend the TIF plan, the urban renewal plan, to allow a TIF rebate. The TIF rebate that you see listed in this notice is for a larger amount. It's $1 million. That would allow, when we talked with attorney about what we could do, we decided not to have the name of a developer in here, and we tried to leave it a little generic, given that this project could have been resized from what they're currently looking at the $700,000 match requirement. So we wanted to make sure there was a little bit of flexibility within the urban plan, the urban renewal plan amendment. And really, essentially, what's before you now is setting a hearing to consider that plan amendment if you want to move forward with doing a project with either Richard Silva or any other developer, really, for that matter, under this type of terms.
Any questions from the audience? Good. See none? Council?
Kind of have mixed feelings about this, since all we're doing is setting a date for a public hearing. Does it hurt to have a public hearing? But we're taking another whole month to drag this out, and I guess I'm at the point, like I said earlier, way last spring, if Miller Valentine couldn't get it together, then I was not in favor of going forward any further. So at this point, I'm going to say no.
I'm ready to be done with this. Richard Silva come back and talked with us, and that's about all he did, was talk with us. He didn't really show us any kind of plan. He talked about some numbers, some 50 to 60 apartments. He reiterated numerous times that it's going to be a very difficult project. I didn't feel comfortable with the numbers that he had put together. He was calling it a $10 million project and not knowing how many apartments he was going to have. He didn't know what he was going to do with the remainder of the property. There was really not a plan for us to look at. And I had made up my mind that if we couldn't have somebody show us the money by this fall, that I was going to be finished with it. And Councilman Davidson had pretty much said the same thing. We have to make a decision at some point that to move on. And the other factor was that this would take until the fall of 18 before they would start turning any dirt. It would be another year before they would have any apartments available. And that date that I give of turning dirt that's only if they come up with the money. Richard Silva tried to do a project at Salter School. He was going to demo the building and do a senior housing project. And because of the competitiveness of the financing for that project and this project at Apollo School, he didn't get the funding for it. But he tied up a person's property for about 18 months, waiting for a decision from the state and federal and everybody else that he was getting money from. And the gentleman that owned this property had turned down 2 other offers on that property because of that. And now he doesn't have any offers on the property. He's wanting to sell it and unable to. So I'm just afraid we're going to set on this for another 3 years. We're going to continue to maintain the property at the minimum level, but we're going to continue to maintain the property, and we're still going to end up with a bill to demolish. And I think if we were to clear the site and make it available for development, that even if we sold off one lot at a time, we're going to be ahead of where we're at now, and probably ahead of where we would be in 3 years. I think there's other qualified properties in this community that the same type of project can be done and better suited and better located for for this type of thing, so I don't want to discourage people from doing this kind of development. I just don't think this is the right place, and I mean, we've been looking at this building in this condition or near this condition for the last 30 years. It's time to make a decision. And this is the first opportunity that we've had to talk about this, and it's probably not the right time to be saying what we're saying about it, but I think that the Hawkeye called us out. We need to let it be known why we're not in favor of this project, and not have Richard Silver or anybody else put any more money into putting a plan together. If we're at a point as a council where we're ready to just take this project off our books and make a decision to demolish and just get rid of the property.
Amen.
Anything to add to that?
No, I know there are a lot of neighbors would be happy to see that building torn down and the area redeveloped. And that would be a net improvement for our community.
Amen. It's true.
Already said what I had to say last week. I'm finished with it. Kathleen, let's take it to vote.
Okay, and I vote makes it set date for hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. McCampbell,
Nope.
Scott,
No.
Davidson,
No?
Fleming.
No,
Okay.
I have
Now, this is time that we will entertain comments from the audience. If there's anybody here that has any comments, anybody here but Terry Struther, if there's anybody here besides Terry Struther or Dane, we'll entertain comments.
Okay, first off, I'd like to wish all of you happy Labor Day. Hope you get too wild and get in trouble. Basically, you just put up a point about the Hawkeye said. I think he's right. We got to make a decision about where. First off, I think it was really irresponsible for the school board to say, well, we don't want to deal with this, so we're going to kick the can to the city council to deal with. First off. But like I said before, I would like to save a rebuilding in Burlington, but we can't. Because it's going to take tons of money to refurnish that building. You got to put in elevators. I talked to somebody who went through that building. Could be asbestos in that building you have to deal with to get rid of. Plus you have to put fire alarms, smoke detectors. I am not Donald Trump. I don't have the money. But I think it's about time we make a decision about whether we're going to keep putting money in the building or we're going to tear it down. I mean, most people, like he said, he was a teacher. I went to school there I went to school there until the last 2 years to new high school. I mean, most people in this city went to school. They have fond memories. But you just cannot save every building. The problem we got in this city, we got a lot of empty buildings and a lot of houses that are empty, and I think that's also a problem too. I mean, you go on, now you got Menards is empty. It's gonna be empty another 30 years. I mean, you got that old Walmart's half empty. You got that mall over by where the Manor used to be, 2 or 3 spots are empty. JCPenney's is empty. But I think it just, like you said, it comes down to, I think it's about time, it's sad to see it happen, but I think it's about time we just tear down that school, maybe put public housing there or something like that, which we do need in this city. I think it's overdue, and I think it's unless we have the money to put money into these buildings, okay, but if we don't have the money, but it also comes down, is it worth putting the money into? I say no, enough is enough, and I think it's about time we say bye-bye to Apollo School. And happy Labor Day, and may the Lord Jesus Christ be with you, and peace be with you, all of you.
Thank you, Dean.
You never let me down with that, Dan. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Any comments or questions? Anyone except for Mr. Struther? Anybody? Anyone? I could only hope and pray. Mr. Struther.
I'm Terry Struther, and I live at 212 South Gunnison, a few blocks from the Apollo School. I would first like to ask you, do you have an offer from Landover, and have they submitted a proposal to you?
We don't have anything that, well, let me just speak for me. I didn't say anything that I thought fit within.
And if you'd speak a bit louder for me, please.
We had a proposal come in. It wasn't detailed, and when the proposal originally came in, it was what they offered. They said that they were going to do a remodel for elderly, for senior citizens. Well, that fell out of the way, and when that went by the wayside, that's when I was completely out. So I just want to speak for myself here. That was the only thing that we've had. That building's been sitting, I don't know for how long, and we've had one developer with 2 other different companies come and show a little interest, and the young girl. That's all we've ever had on it.
And that's all?
That's it. That's it.
I know that the Miller Valentine opted out. Is that correct?
Was it
Yes.
Miller Bill? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. According to the Hawkeye last week, or sometime this week, I hear a few days ago, all of you were against or thought that you had spent enough time on the Apollo project or trying to promote it, or to I was under the impression that Landover was second in line and had presented a proposal, and you were not in line with its, or didn't agree with its proposal or something. Is that true?
For me, I wouldn't call it a proposal, Mr. Struthers. He come forward with a concept, but there was no money has exchanged hands. They made no offer to purchase the building. There's, as far as I'm concerned, no skin in the game on their part at this point. There was a purchase price talked about with Miller Valentine. I don't know if there ever was with.
Richard Sova, Landover, presented a proposal to purchase the facility. That up front it would be an option to purchase for, I think it was about a year.
Yeah.
Through next April, I think, allowing them to go through the low-income housing tax credit program. That offer, it put forward a price to purchase it for. It asked for 15 years of 100% tax abatement. It also asked for cash infusion if they were awarded funds from the city. But it also didn't have, as was pointed out, it didn't have a full use of the whole site. It was using a couple of floors. He wasn't sure what he was doing with the remainder of the space. They talked about leaving that vacant for a period of time. Wasn't sure where that was going to go. So there was a proposal set forward. It was different from Miller Valentine's. And I think probably one of the biggest distinctions was who the housing was for. Again, Miller Valentine talked about this being this main application being for 50 units of senior housing through the low-income housing tax credit program. Richard Silva's proposal talked about it being a low-income housing, portion of it for seniors, a portion of it non-age restricted. So you did have a formal proposal, and they had that, and you were able to see some tentative pieces to what a final development agreement might look like, but ultimately they have the decisions they've made are saying that those tentative pieces they were not in favor of.
May I also say that Apollo is perhaps the sturdiest building in town. It is architecturally an attractive building, and to see it demolished and an empty space in that area would be it is an eyesore. But I hope that, or would hope that you would be able to find some redevelopment that would help to enhance that area. You probably are not in agreement with my sentiments, but
I would dare to say I would disagree with that. I think that's part of the reason why it sat so long, is because really everybody's hopes was that hopefully there would be.
And so are you saying this isn't a closed?
No, it's closed for me. This building's going down as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, that building's going down.
And you followed him last week, or said?
No, he didn't follow anybody. He's Jim Davidson.
Well, anyway, it's
Building
a
sat
grand
for a
old
long time,
lady.
Mr. Struther.
It's a grand lady, and I personally would hate to see it. I know it's an eyesore, but
It's more than that, though. It's more than just an eyesore. It's got so many complications that come with that
Well,
building, and it sat long, for a long time.
And
So
what would it cost the city to have it demolished? Wouldn't you spend at least $1 million
Hopefully not.
or more?
We have right now, the tentative cost estimate that was put together about $600,000,
Yeah, right around
including the asbestos removal. Until we go out to bids, we don't know what that would actually be. My assumption for I don't know where the council's gonna wanna head with this, but that's what would be the next action item that will be brought forward, is action to start the process for doing the demolition. If they do choose to move forward with that, I would assume that there would be some discussions from the council over the next months about how to look at redevelopment on that site. And that hasn't been part of the discussion yet, but I think some of the things that have been mentioned would include, is there some sort of a development that can happen that we can get some single-family housing back in this area? See if we can't structure some sort of a development agreement where we can go out for proposals. I think those are things that will be discussed from the council, if that's the route that they ultimately end up moving over the next few weeks and months. So you may see something happen for redevelopment there, but where they're in line right now with actions is not with the existing structure. It would be in some other alternative. But that's a discussion that's gonna have to go forward in future meetings.
Well said.
Thank you, and
Thank
have
you.
a good evening.
Thank
too.
you, Terry.
Anybody else from the audience? Comments or concerns?
Can I come? Can I come in?
Come on, Dean.
Okay, my memory's not too well, but I think it closed down in the 70s. So that's making around 40 to 50 years it's been vacant. But like I
It was in the
still
70s.
say,
I think it was like 80. I was
80,
there the
but
last year.
I remember I went to the 77, I graduated from the new high school. I was there 76. So I think 75 is when it was closed down. But like I said, that it's also, my worry is that you see recover for this. But if a hobo or somebody, some kids decide, hey, let's play in that building, and they get seriously injured or somebody dies, the city is responsible. And they can have a big lawsuit.
What are you talking about? Sit back down, Dean. What are you
Sorry.
talking about? I just play. I was just messing with you.
But that's my, like I said before, and I'll say this 10,000 times. I would like to save every building in this town, but there comes a point where you gotta look at it and say, would it cost more to remodel to keep it than not? And like somebody says, it's a white elephant. And I think it'd be best to tear it down and put low rent housing there. Maybe have a bank humanity build a whole bunch of houses there. But I think that's the best thing to do.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
President.
That's it.
Thank you, Dean.
Any other comments from the audience? I see none. Been a lovely audience tonight. Well, I see one over in the corner. Yes. Can I have you, yes, come to the podium, please. And give us your name and address, please.
Tammy Thomas. I live in the neighborhood where Apollo School is, and I personally don't want to see it tore down either. Is there a reason that the other, that wasn't Landover, didn't,
That Landover didn't,
you didn't agree with what they had proposed to do, or something it said?
personally, I didn't. They still didn't, I mean, it's not like they came with blueprints and all of that stuff, They came with a concept. It changed over the process of time, over a process of a short amount of time. I definitely, this is where I'm coming from. When I look at a project that big, it's a behemoth, it's huge. When I look at a building like that, there's very few things that you can do with that you can look at and say, well, is this gonna hold up? Is this gonna be okay 10 years down the road, or 5 years down the road, or 15 years down the road? Well, this is my mindset, just so that you can have this clear from where I'm coming from. We just tore down the manor. You know what I'm saying? Well,
Yeah.
I was hoping for, we need elderly, we need more residential for elderly. That being said, the model of putting a bunch of impoverished people in a big building, that model doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't, and that's what that would have been. The model doesn't work. I didn't like where it was going. We've been waiting and waiting, trying to, waiting for somebody to come in that was going to offer something decent to do with this big building. Nobody's got one. And all this while, we're just compounding more money to the citizens by cutting the grass and reboarding up and all of this stuff that we have to do. And, there's always other horrible things that could possibly happen. To me personally, I love that building. I was there the last year that it was up. I graduated in '87. I was there the last year it was up. It's gotta come down. It's gotta come down.
Oh, I just know with everything that's going on downtown, all the development down there, somebody else might be interested someday.
Man, we've been waiting for years. We've been waiting for years for somebody to get interested with that
I
building.
know, but there's a lot more things happening in Burlington than there was 10 years ago.
Appreciate your optimism. I need that next time my daughter's cleaning up down in the basement. Make me feel better
Okay,
about
but
that.
I just
I hear
just
ya.
wanted
I
to
hear
voice
ya.
my opinion, and I live in the neighborhood. I don't
hear ya.
really want to see it tore down either.
Thank you,
So,
Tammy.
thanks.
And thanks for coming down, Tammy. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mark? Oh, no, your brother's here tonight. What's up, Mike?
This is Mike Crowner. I'd just like to say, this Apollo School, you know, it's sat empty long enough. If anybody else owned that building, we'd be looking at trying to condemn it. So I agree with you guys. Let's get it down, get it cleaned up, sell lots, and have brand-new houses up there. That's all I wanted to say.
All right. Mr. Tisland? Mr. Scott?
Last week, there was an article in the Burlington Hawkeye about using cell phones in your vehicles. I think it was actually an AP. There was a sidebar that they put in that said that there are no laws on the books for Iowa or Illinois. And I suggest that you not use your cell phone in Illinois because you will be cited for using your cell phone in your vehicle. I guess I just wanted to point that out. That was not a correct statement. That was in the article. And they'll pull you over quick. I know firsthand.
They'll pull you over quick.
I wasn't driving, thank God. They will pull you over.
Is that all you got?
That's it.
All I have is Antoinette, I hope you get feeling better, and I want to say happy birthday to my baby sister, Melinda. I shook the major's hand, so she's watching, so I shook the major's hand. I'll stop by her house and touch her afterwards. Maybe she'll get some healing power. Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to express my sympathies to Brad Selby and his family. Brad, as you know, is the recreation director here. His stepson, is correct, was in that motorcycle accident last week. So our sympathies to him. I think, what did you say, the visitation is Thursday?
Yeah.
From 5 to 8, was it?
Yep.
There? Okay. And hopefully we have a newborn in the family soon here with Charlie and his wife. We'll see. Also, on a lighter note, I want to express my sympathies to anybody. Maybe there's one person here that happens to be a Fighting Irish fan. Oh, jeez. So maybe
That was
there's
nice.
better things coming.
That was a classy move, my friend. That was a classy move, man.
And I was wondering why Charlie having a newborn wasn't on the lighter note side, actually, but now I'm really flabbergasted what to do with this Texas.
City manager, take us home.
Those council members who are involved on the RFP for engineering services on Mount Pleasant Street Bridge, we're expecting bids back by tomorrow. And I don't know what you're looking at for maybe yet the end of this week to get a schedule out for what we're looking to do.
They'll come in tomorrow and back by the 14th. So I'm expecting probably 4 or 5. If it's only 4 and they're shorter, I'll give you paper copies. Otherwise, will a digital Dropbox work for you to score from? They'll give you scoring sheets.
We are working on Steamboat Days contract renewal. I think that ended September 1 was maybe the, okay. So we're right at the renewal date. We still have some things that we still have to iron out details before we're able to bring something back to the council for consideration. And radio program is council members Scott and Bob for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And you took care of what I wanted to make sure with Brad, our thoughts and prayers are with him.
Before we close it, are you done? I'm sorry. Before I close out, Chief, do you want to make an announcement? Yeah. And there's something, we got something going on down at the fire department this Sunday? Oh, yeah. Might want to.
Thanks for reminding me.
No problem.
A lot of other things I was thinking about. Yes, Sunday morning, we're gonna have a 9/11 remembrance ceremony at the station, Central Fire Station. Starts at 7:43. Seems like a weird time, but that's when the first plane hit the first World Trade Center tower. So we're gonna start with a bell ringing. That'll actually start off the ceremony. There'll be no announcement like we're starting right now, but 7:43 it starts. And then we're gonna read through all the firefighters' names that were killed and also law enforcement officers that were killed on 9/11. So it should take about a half hour. There'll be a lot of representative from area fire departments, law enforcement agencies. hopefully we'll have a good turnout for that. So we just think it's important that we do something every year. Today, or this Sunday will be the 15-year anniversary, so doesn't seem like it's been that long, but, so.
And, Chief, I want you to know, it's not that I don't care, but Sunday mornings are not time for me to come to things
Yeah.
like that, so I won't be there.
Okay.
I'll be there.
So you'll
On my
be
way to
there.
church.
You're on the agenda,
That's
so.
right, that's right. I'll be there. Thank you.
Thanks for reminding me.
All righty. Mr. McGregor?
In response to Councilmember Davidson's question about the DOT and hanging things across Highway 61, that's a no-go.
Yeah, so I thought it was. Thank you.
All right. Can I entertain a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
I second.
Kathleen?
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, council.
No.
God bless you.